because I know this is Monday. I usually don't have a ton of information for you, and then I don't want you guys to get caught by surprise at all. But Real Mitchell will be out the rest of the year, so we'll start Matt Duncan at quarterback this Friday, and he'll be backed up by Kamal Gray, a true freshman walk-on.
Temple's fourth quarterback and its fifth loss. The Owls falter in Orlando, and the quarterback room is dealt another huge blow.
Breaking news this week, Randall Mitchell is out for the season, and quarterback Anthony Russo has already been ruled out for this week's matchup due to being placed on the COVID protocol list last week.
The American runs on Duncan, or at least the Owls do. The true freshman Matt Duncan is set to make his first career start against ECU. You're tuned into Inside the Nest, and it starts right now.
Hello, Owl fans, and welcome into a brand new edition of Inside the Nest. Alongside Ray Dunn and Don Gillespie, I'm Adam Cernali. Temple has its losing woes continue in Florida.
Yes, and the Owls have 2 games left to try to salvage the season, first of which coming this Saturday against East Carolina.
And of course, we start in Orlando, where the Owls were heavy underdogs against UCF on Saturday. The Owls were looking for their first win since 2016 against the Knights.
Temple came into this game trying to avoid dropping 4 in a row for the first time in a decade. They did not get off to a hot start. First drive of the game, the Owls fumbled the ball, gave UCF great field position. Greg McCree would take full advantage of it, and the Knights jump out to an early lead. Next drive here for the Owls, Randall Mitchell steps back. He tries getting this bubble screen to Jaden Blue. Tatum Bethune read it all the way, and Temple was making it pretty easy for Central Florida. Dylan Gabriel with the give to Otis Anderson. Some poor form tackling gives him an easy score, which results in a 2-possession lead for the Knights, and the Owls are playing from behind early.
Gabriel gets himself passing yards a quarterback's favorite way by watching Marlon Williams stumble and rumble down inside the 5-yard line. That's 50 of Williams' 102 receiving yards on the day. 3 plays later, McCray runs it in for the touchdown. Just like that, it's 21-0 UCF. Things do calm down a bit. Freshman kicker Rory Bell nailing this field goal to make it 21-3 going to halftime.
Second half action, and it's Gabriel over to his left and finding his favorite target, Marlon Williams, from 23 yards out. And this play, UCF back again, and Gabriel's looking the same receiver, just the other side of the field. Marlon Williams from 21 yards out. And just like that, it's 38-3. Temple has an opportunity here to get some points on the board following this fumble recovery from Amir Tyler, setting the Owls up in the red zone. And here's a bright spot. Onassis Neely pounds it in from 5 yards out for the touchdown. That's the redshirt freshman's first college football touchdown. Who needs a helmet to make that happen? Onassis probably the first of many. Temple adds another field goal in garbage time. 38-13 is your final. 4 straight losses for the Owls.
I mean, I knew, from the past couple of weeks, our offense wasn't really too successful. So, I mean, if there's a burden, I guess just trying to be better than we were in the past, if there was one. But, yeah, that's my answer.
Turning the ball over is unacceptable. I don't care if you're a true freshman or if you're a fifth-year senior, it's unacceptable. And we got to have more ball security. The urgency, I didn't think he played with early. And then I think he got into a little bit of a flow and played with better urgency, game speed later. But we can't wait to do that. So those 2 things we have to fix.
All right, so every game we play, we beat ourselves. Like, there's always like a play or 2 that determines the game. And like, we know these teams are good, but we know we compete with them too.
This is what we wanted to do. This is what we wish for. It may not turn out on our page, but the tables always turn. As of right now, you feel me? There's a lot of people learning new positions, new spots. They haven't played a lot, so we just gonna keep working, even though it is hard though.
For the second straight week, Tavon Ruley saw the bulk of the carries for the Owls. All 4 running backs had touches in the loss, and as we just saw, Onassis Neely showed what the future could hold after an accolade-filled high school career that he had. As you saw in the highlights, the redshirt freshman picked up that first career collegiate touchdown late in the game, most likely the first of many for Onassis.
Central Florida, while getting a win, did not light up the stat sheet like we have seen in many other games this year. Dillon Gabriel had 12 completions on the day, 2 of them went for touchdowns, and virtually all of his throwing yards went to these next 2 players. Marlon Williams, who we previewed in last week's show, surely did not disappoint. He had 102 receiving yards in Saturday's wins, added 2 touchdowns on the day for him as well, and Williams continues to prove he is one of the nation's top receivers. And complimenting him was Jalen Robinson, who managed to net over 28 yards per reception. Both of these guys combined had the Owls secondary searching for an answer all game. Knight's defense really shined as well. They held Temple to 13 points, largely in part to Eric Gilliard. His stats speak for himself. 13 tackles, 3 of them were for a loss, and he managed to snag a sack on the day as well, in what was a comfortable victory for Central Florida.
And mentioning Real Mitchell's injury, that just adds to an already injured quarterback room. Anthony Russo missed time with AC joint injury and now is in COVID-19 protocol and will miss the game on Saturday. Behind him, Trad Beatty got hurt 2 weeks ago. He will also be out this weekend, and Real Mitchell, now we found out, is out for the season. So that puts Matt Duncan in line to start for the Owls at quarterback, and again, it's just been an injury-filled season in that room.
Some other injury concerns to note. A guy that got hurt just this past week, Linwood Crump, looks like he will not suit up. He had to be helped off the field with a lower body leg injury. In addition to that, of course, no IGM still. And in addition to those, Randall Jones, a single-digit wide receiver. He will also continue to be out as far as we know. And it's been a banged-up starting group on both offense and defense for the Owls this season.
It's been tough to be a football fan this year, but it has been even harder to be a player. Whether it's having games postponed or not being able to practice to the full extent, it is taking a toll on the sport. With more on this, we bring in our own Josh Safran with more. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Dom. Now, following the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, the possibility of college football this season looked extremely slim. But fans have had a season to watch this fall with mixed results. And for example, this past weekend, 11 conferences had teams in action, even though 15 games were either postponed or canceled altogether. Now, Temple, of course, played its game, but COVID still dominated. Division I football programs are allowed to award 85 scholarships to student athletes. But when the Owls traveled to Orlando to take on UCF this Saturday, they arrived with only 45 players under scholarship. This comes as a result of an ever-growing injury report and COVID list, thrusting underclassmen into meaningful situations much earlier than expected.
Nothing feels good right now when you lose. But I'll have to watch the film, and some young guys are getting some experience, so that'll be something in the off-season that they'll do.
It's hard. It is kind of hard, but, this is what we wanted to do. This is what we wish for. It may not turn out on our page, but the tables always turn. As of right now, you feel me, there's a lot of people learning. New positions, new spots. They haven't played a lot, so we just going to keep working.
The large list of inactives has led to one of the more frustrating seasons in recent memory, including a 4-game losing streak with Temple losing by an average of 24 points per game. And against UCF, the Owls were down 21-0 at the end of the first quarter.
The whole game boils down to the beginning. 2 turnovers in the first 3 drives, and dug ourselves a hole we didn't have the firepower to get out of.
And no position has been affected more than quarterback. After missing the last 2 games with a shoulder injury, QB Anthony Russo missed his 3rd consecutive game, this time for COVID protocol. And worst of all, he wasn't the only quarterback to receive bad news this week.
Real Mitchell will be out the rest of the year, so we'll start Matt Duncan at quarterback this Friday, and he'll be backed up by Kamal Gray, a true freshman walk-on. I wouldn't play the last 3 weeks. I made that to be very clear, But it's an opinion, and I'm not in a decision-making role.
Now, this game on Saturday against ECU was looking like Temple's final chance for another win this season. But as of now, with so many players' health in question and having to trot out the 4th quarterback on your depth chart, I have to believe the Owls have already gotten their lone win this season. For Inside the Nest, I'm Josh Safran. Dominic Daniel, back to you.
Thank you so much, Josh. I wish it was possible for COVID to take a break, but for now, we are the only ones heading to break.
Rod Carey dropped an absolute metric ton of quarterback news before leaving the Zoom call on Monday. We take a look at that when we come back.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. The recent losses have certainly been tough for the Owls, but COVID might be an even tougher one. Several players over the past month, including some key starters, have missed time due to COVID protocol. Once a player has been exposed to COVID, they have to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks, which usually takes a player out of 2 games as well. Key players like Anthony Russo have already been ruled out for this week because he hasn't finished his quarantine time yet.
And due to that protocol and injury, many freshmen have stepped into roles they may have not envisioned for themselves just yet this season. Matt Duncan will be the first true freshman quarterback to start a game for Temple since P.J. Walker did in 2013. Fellow true freshman safety Alex Odom has registered 11 tackles in the last 3 weeks. And then in terms of 2 redshirt freshmen, you've seen a bit of Onassis Neely scored his first career rushing touchdown last week, and Wisdom Kwarshi saw extensive action on the offensive line.
While I am all for getting young guys reps in real games, this is not what I had in mind. A lot of guys going down to injury, and with all the COVID restrictions in place, it's a little like throwing some of these guys to the wolves. But regardless of who plays, the Owls need to come out hungry, and the coaches need to put players out there in positions to succeed.
Obviously, there's been a ton of guys out this season due to either COVID protocol or injuries this season. In the past weekly presser, Coach Carey discussed some of the struggles, especially in that quarterback room, and how the Owls are hoping to prepare with so many guys out leading up to ECU.
Certainly, what I said after the game was true. We dug too big of a hole, but our defense certainly played well enough to win offensively. We did not, even though we ran the ball effectively, probably not efficiently enough, effectively though. And that's with, some different guys in there too, which was good running backs and O-line wise, which was good to see, but still disappointed with the outcome and back to work at it, weigh in on ECU. And no, we're going to stick with Rory right now. What I've told Rory, and so I can address that, is that he won't, as a true freshman kicking for me, get kind of, scolded or anything for kicking it out of bounds. I said, that's your miss right now, because the other miss is too costly. It can cost 7 points. Probably the bright spot on offense coming out of the game, the backs ran especially hard. All of them, leading the way was Tavon on that. You still want to see some improvement, but certainly he's one of those guys, the more you give him the ball, the better he seems to get. And, excited about that for him. We took 45 scholarship players to UCF. I think we traveled another 16. I got to go back and look at the exact travel roster, Mark, but it was 45 scholarship players. There's obvious losing sucks, right? I mean, that's a negative in and of itself. But when the safety becomes in question, which in my opinion has been over the last 3 weeks, I think that's when, it becomes a negative to play. ECU is a good team. I know their record is similar to ours at this point, at least conference-wise. And, they've been in some games as well, and, have their quarterback back, and their running backs are freshmen. They're good players, and their defense is an aggressive blitzing style defense. So
going into this Saturday's matchup, both teams will be in pursuit of win number 2 on the year. ECU is not known to be the stiffest of competition for the Owls in the past, but nothing is normal this year. Not only are the Owls very beaten up, but the Pirates have been playing some good football. Most of ECU's success has been attributed to these 3 players: junior quarterback Holton Ahlers, freshman running back Rajay Harris, and linebacker Xavier Smith. Adam and Ray, talk to me more about these playmakers.
Yeah, Dom, so Holton Ahlers, the quarterback, is coming off his second 3-interception game of the season. The junior seems to be a fan of the number 3, though. If you look at his stat line, in the touchdown category, he's either thrown for 3 touchdowns or none in each game this season. So if you're into consistency stats, expect if Ahlers throws 1 touchdown, he's going to get 2 more. And he's had for a total scheme, he's had 12 touchdowns and 8 interceptions on the year. So definitely a guy that seems to be hot and cold depending on the opponent. Then there's Najee Harris, the freshman running back, who's run for over 100 yards 3 times this season. He's not much of a dual threat out of the backfield. He's only caught 5 catches in 7 games for just 19 yards. So the Owls just need to really make sure with Harris to control him out of the backfield.
Now on the defensive side of the ball, ECU has allowed the most points per game and the second most yards per game in the American Athletic Conference. However, there have been some individual bright spots, and linebacker Xavier Smith is one of them. He is 4th in tackles per game in the American, and he has been the anchor of this defense, tracking down ball carriers with regularity. One underrated aspect of his game is his play in coverage. He can size up with tight ends and is quick enough to mark some receivers. Look for him to make plays on the ball in coverage. That's what's coming up on Saturday for the Owls. But as for us, a break is coming up right now. Don't go anywhere. There's still plenty to get to on Inside the Nest.
That's right, Ray. When we come back, we're going to take a look around the rest of the AAC and, of course, our favorite segment, No Huddle. Inside the Nest, we'll be right back.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably going to turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. There was a lot of action around the rest of the AAC this past weekend. Let's start off at the top of your screen. Cincinnati ran up the score against the Pirates, something that ECU's head coach Mike Houston took issue with post-game. Tulane played in a rare out-of-conference game versus Army, managed to handle them fairly easily in a 38-12 victory as they look to finish the season strong.
Elsewhere, Houston mopped the floor with USF behind a strong performance by quarterback Clayton Tune, who scored 5 total touchdowns and accounted for almost 300 yards of offense. The big shocker around the American was Tulsa, erasing a 17-point deficit at half to beat previously 19th-ranked SMU 28-24. The win earned Tulsa a spot in the AP poll at 25th and in firm grasp of second place in the conference. Obviously, the underlying story around college football is that last one. Memphis and Navy were one of 15 games postponed or canceled this past weekend due to COVID-19.
Cincinnati has certainly turned heads around the college football world this season, appearing in the top 10 AP rankings over the past few weeks. A lot of AAC fans would love to see the Bearcats make the college football playoffs, which means finishing in the top 4. But the way things are looking right now, Cincy has to stay undefeated and get some help. Teams like Notre Dame and Clemson could battle each other in the ACC championship, which could lower one of the team's rankings. But for now, the Bearcats can only control what they can control, which is, of course, winning football games.
Cincinnati's defense is where the team has been making a name for itself nationally. The Bearcats are almost undoubtedly the best non-Power 5 defense in the country, but I think they're making a statement for the best defense, period. They are allowing less than 13 points per game and are doing so against some of the best offenses in the conference, SMU and Memphis to name a few. To pick one player who stands out, it has to be Ahmed Gardner. He has over 400 coverage snaps over the past 2 seasons, and he has allowed 0 touchdowns. The secondary as a whole is a bright spot. They have not let up a passing touchdown since October 24th.
Offensively, the Bearcats will thrash you in the running game. Quarterback Desmond Ritter is a dual-threat presence with the 3rd most rushing touchdowns in the entire conference. His ability to run is overshadowed by running back Jared Dokes, who is 3rd in rushing yards in the conference and has punched in 7 rushing touchdowns this season. The unit ranks 3rd in the nation in yards per carry and ran for 299 yards against ECU last weekend. Of course, that's not to discount the passing game in that one, where Desmond Ritter also tossed for 327 yards in the blowout. You know the drill. One of us lays down the questions and the other two scramble to put together intelligent thoughts. It's no huddle time.
This man needs absolutely no introduction, yet we kind of just did it anyway. But regardless, Dom Gillespie, take it away.
I'm really happy I don't have to be one of the intelligent ones this week. I'm going to have you guys on the other end of the stick. Let's start things off right here. So, the season has not been what any of us expected for the Owls. Are you fearful that the lack of production this year could affect next season, especially in like recruitment or people leaving in the transfer portal? Ray, we will start with you.
I'm not fearful of that right now. I do think you're going to have your natural ebb and flow of a college program where, yes, you will have people transfer out. You'll have potentially a decommitment or two. But I think right now, a lot of people are understanding of what's happening in the world and that this is not a normal season. Obviously, if you watch any bit of Temple this season, no one expected that they would have 4 quarterbacks start. That's the most in the FBS era. Shout out Kyle Gauss for that stat. But again, really, you're not expecting this type of season from the Owls. So to have it be a concerning program trend, if they come back next year and it's a normal year and something similar to this happens, then yes, it's concerning and you'll start to see the fallout from that. I don't think you see fallout over this year.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Ray here. I totally think that if you look at how Temple played under Rod Carey 2 years ago, or like last season, I think it was a lot more of what you would probably see from a Temple Owls group, a healthy Temple Owls group. You factor in injuries like we've talked about in the show and the COVID guys missing on the depth chart or guys that actually get playing time. It's been really messy. It's definitely probably been tough on these athletes. Us students know how weird it's been from home. These guys, they go into practice, they have to wear masks everywhere. It's definitely probably been difficult for them. Let's not forget that we had to preview their games for 4 weeks because they were delayed until October. I feel like for recruiting purposes, not taking those type of things into consideration with the Owls' overall record and performance this year would kind of be a disservice to the overall program. I think, like Ray said, if they come back again next year and kind of look like this, that's a different story. But right now, it shouldn't impact recruiting, I would hope, at least.
Both really good points from you guys, taking a different aspect from it. I myself am a little fearful, but you guys might have swayed me in the other direction. But you guys already kind of led into my next question, So if you think the Owls were close to fully healthy this season, do you think they would have got to that mark that all of us had preseason, about 3 or 4 wins? Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I 100% will stand by my initial prediction of 3-5. I think that this game coming up was one of the games that I was thinking could have went the Owls' way, and the other one was one of the bubble games I talked about, maybe a Tulane game, maybe an upset, but the way the Owls have played this year, and of course with so many people out, no way that would have happened, but I think the Owls could have definitely reached a 3-win mark like I predicted, with Russo especially behind center the past few weeks, not having Ray Davis transfer, that was a big blow. Randall Jones, another injury, sets he's been hot when he's been on the field. It's just been tough, especially on the offense. I think we talked about preseason. The offense was going to have to carry this group, and having so many key guys out, it's not going to go the same way, and I think it would have been a different story if those guys were all on the field.
I think they would have probably reached Adam's 3-win threshold. As for my 4-win threshold, I'm holding back on that one. I think given the way the season started, the loss to Navy set them back a win that I thought they'd have. I think 3 wins was probably the ceiling for a healthy team, just given the scheduling circumstances they were dealt, regardless of health, regardless of injury protocols, anything that way. They just didn't have the time to get ready and prepare. And I think knowing what I know now, if I could go back and tell myself in September while we were doing predictions what to do, I probably would have went a little bit differently.
I agree with that, Ray, and I agree with both of you in that sense. Adam's preseason prediction for a healthy team, 3 wins is probably the best we would have seen from them. But we know COVID and injuries have really plagued this team so far this year. So that leads into the last question. Can either of you guys genuinely justify a win against ECU this weekend? And if so, how do you think it's going to happen? Ray, let's start with you.
Yeah, why not? Let's justify a win. let's go for it. This ECU team is not a tremendous football team. They are not that good. They've been in the basement in the conference for a while. They're trying to make inroads upwards. They haven't been able to do so far this season. You have a quarterback they've never seen play. What, are they going to use the 5 snaps he had last weekend? No, they haven't seen this guy play. There's a whole different, unique element to it. And any given Saturday, right? We can roll with that. I think that these are two teams that are struggling through a season, that are really just trying to find anything to have success. Sure, ECU's got the manpower of health, but Temple's a very talented team as well. And the way the defense played against UCF for majority of the game, I'm willing to bet that they put on a show that we don't expect.
Dom, I think your question was, is it possible, right? Something along those lines that they can come away with a win. I would say let's go with the theme this week, right? Temple runs on Duncan, right? I love that, by the way. I think that when you look at this team like we previewed ECU with, it's all about first and foremost stopping the run. I think that's something Temple can do. Let's not forget guys like Ifeanyi Maje and Dan Archibong are both still healthy, both single-digit guys. Will Quinku has showed a lot of development this season. I think he's been a bright spot, especially because he's a single-digit. He needed to show some growth, and I think he's done that. We remember that Navy game week 1. He had a tough game, and he's definitely grown this season. I'm a hard-working guy on this team, no doubt. I think it will rely on the defense, first and foremost. Stop the run and have the ability to control the football on your side. And the reason why I'm saying runs on Duncan, I mean, Duncan showed in his few plays, he can run a little bit out of the pocket, and he shows a hunger side to him that he wants those extra yards. I mean, I'm sure there was an adrenaline rush getting on the field when coming into this year. He probably thought, no way I see the field. I think he's going to get really fired up. Maybe it'll, have that effect in this, effect on the rest of the players this week. And I'd say the defense is going to have to carry the load. And they've honestly done a really good job over the past few weeks. You take those turnovers out against UCF and where UCF actually started. Temple's defense did a pretty solid job holding him down, I think, based on what we were probably expecting heading into the week. So those single-digit guys need to step up in order to potentially get a win. I think it's possible, though.
I was very careful when I was wording that question. I didn't want to say possible because, as Ray said, any given Saturday, a team can come away with a win. But as far as justifying goes, ECU's been playing some good football. I mean, you turn to the Cincinnati blowout. Cincinnati has the ability to blow out any team in the conference. ECU played a really tight game against Tulsa, which really, really worries me about this game. Tulsa's the second best team in the conference right now. Temple's really banged up, a lot of protocols. But as you both said, anything is possible any given Saturday. Also, shout out Anthony Russo for the America runs on Duncan quote. I saw it on Twitter yesterday, and I loved it. I had to put it in the show. That will do it for this edition of No Huddle, though, and also this edition of Inside the Nest, but the coverage does not stop there. JJ Mahowski and Courtney Murphy have you covered with the latest on all things Temple athletics. You can find that on our social media at OwlSportsUpdate on all platforms.
Plus, stay locked into our Twitter page in particular this week for updates on what's going on with Temple football with these new COVID restrictions being put in place throughout Philadelphia.
Thank you all for tuning in. We're off next week to eat some turkey, but we'll see you again December 3rd, same time, same place. Until then, keep yourselves safe. And from all of our crew here, have a happy Thanksgiving. For Adam Cronally and Dom Gillespie, I'm Ray Dunn. You've been watching Inside the Nest.